Hi everybody, I'm Diana at Build a Quilt. Welcome in, and this video is the how-to video for our block called simply the Inside Out block. The Inside Out block is a great block to fill in a quilt. It can be used as a standalone block, but it will be used in our Quilt Lab 2024 quilt that we'll be making later in the year. And it does come in three sizes, 6x6, 8x8, and 10x10. And let me show you what this block looks like. This is the block. Inside out. So do you see it is typically one color family and a dark, a medium, and a light. I want to see if I can get that right. There we go. Maybe get that out of there a little bit. There we go. So dark, medium, and light in any color family that you want. So you could do reds or purples or yellows or oranges or browns, whatever you'd like. And in this video, I will be walking you through the pattern as far as fabric and cutting, the demonstration of how to create the segments, because this block is super simple in that you're only making one segment 4 times. You're going to be making 2 light mediums and 2 dark lights. But it's the same block. Let's look at the dark one here. It's a little bit easier to see. It is what we call a basic triple modified half square triangle. So if you look, there's your half square triangle. There's one half, and here's where the triple modifications are. 1, 2, and 3. So you get the full demonstration on that. Plus, again, we'll go over fabric and the cutting. Then we'll go over the layout, and there's also a short video on how these get stitched together at the end. And then I'll come back and we'll do some final words. Here is your pattern packet that you can download. Sorry about that. That you can download from our website. Well, that you have downloaded because you have it now. Sorry, let's just turn that light off. There we go. So you've downloaded this, and within the packet, your first page of our designs always shows you the segments you're going to be making. And in this one, again, it's just the one segment. This is a super useful segment in a lot of quilt blocks. So this will give you some good opportunity to practice making this. Now down here where it says full how-to video, you will see a video link there. That link will always bring you back to this particular video so that you can watch it at any time. And then you get a page that is all about general supplies for patchwork in the hoop. Then there is a fabric information sheet. And each size, the 6x6, the 8x8, and the 10x10, each have their own cutting information sheet and placement design. Then you get our exclusive coloring sheet. This is to help you work out the colors that you want to use before you start cutting your fabric. So get out your colored pencils or your crayons for that. And then there's some more general instructions. There is a layout sheet for you. And then I always give you a full diagram of the whole block. And then there's some general stuff at the end. So let's go ahead and get started with our first video, which is all about the fabric and the cutting. And then we will do the demonstration, the layout, and then the how to sew these together with your machine without using a 1/4-inch foot, because all of that is built in directly. And then I'll be right back for final words. Okay, everybody, here we are at the cutting table, and this section of our video is about fabric and a general discussion on the cutting, okay? Because this block comes in 3 sizes, let's get the cutting part out of the way. Because the block comes in 3 sizes, 6x6, 8x8, and 10x10, you will use the cutting information for that sized block that's in the pattern. There are 3 sheets. One is a cut sheet for the 6x6, one is the 8x8, and one is the 10x10. And you'll use that to get your actual sizes, okay? And then you'll just follow it. And then what I wanted to say was, I think it was in a recent video, or maybe it was a recent live, I can't remember off the top of my head. I talked about when we cut our fabric, to find our biggest width and cut our strips. And you can see here on this particular fabric, I have a couple of strips left over from a previous project, and they are already the width I need for this project. So I already have part of my cutting done for me, because I can now use that to cut at least some of the segment pieces that I need. And then I have another larger piece there ready to go if I need to cut more. So that's the cutting part I wanted to talk about briefly. Now let's talk about color. The inside out block is basically 3 colors, a light, a medium, and a dark, in the same color family. And here I've used kind of that beautiful aqua color. And this, very obviously my dark. This is a Moda Grunge dot fabric. You can kind of see the Moda Grunge part of it. The grunge part of it kind of is a little bit different here than here. And it has, the one thing I like about the Moda Grunge is it can be substituted as solid, but it always has a few different colors in it. Like that is a very different color than that or that. So a lot of times it will blend really beautiful because there's more shades in it. So here is my dark. And then this one here, this is a Lori Holt B cross stitch. And it is, I believe this might be Seafoam. And it is going to be my medium, okay? So I'm going to be making 2 blocks in light dark, 2 blocks in light medium. So this fabric here in the center is going to be my light, because remember, we're trying to get that inside out effect. You know, when you turn your denim inside out, the inside looks lighter than the outside does typically. And that's the effect. You know, it's still denim, but there's a lighter shade to it. That's the effect we're trying to get. So you don't necessarily have to have very obvious changes. Like this could be used as a medium, but up against this and this, it works really well as a light. So I've got my medium and my light, and my dark and my light. And your light will be the same fabric for your medium and dark fabrics. You can use any color family you like. In fact, let me just grab a couple of things from over here in the in my fabric stash. I could even do, now I don't know that, I suppose, yeah, I don't know that I'd use all 3 of those together, but maybe. But those are all a color family. So you could use whatever color family you want for this project. And what you want to think about is that if you're using this block as a block that will be like a filler block, then your dark or your medium should probably be a background color for your quilt. So if I were doing this in a quilt, I would want to probably make sure either this fabric or this fabric was my background fabric if I were using this as a filler block. If I'm using it as a standalone block in a quilt, then of course I can do whatever fabrics I want and any color range I want. You could do a whole quilt and do each and every block different. 3 different hues of a different color family. That would be beautiful as well. You can also do this block in multiple colors, more than 3. And if you were with us on Wednesday Night Live, when we talked about this block, I explained that a little bit and showed some samples of that. All right, everybody, this has been the color and cut version. Now we're going to move on to the rest of the video. Okay, here we are at the machine, and this is the demonstration for the basic triple modified half square triangle.
for the inside out block. And I have my fabric here. We're going to be doing in the demonstration the dark light combo. I thought it might be easier for you all to see. I've used a black thread here so that you can see it. However, most of you know I always piece with this light gray from Isacord number 0184. It's a perfect color for piecing. It goes with everything. It's hidden really well in the seams. If anything should be peeking out, no problems at all. Now what I've done is I have gone ahead and put my wash away stabilizer in my 5x7 hoop, and I've stitched out my first 2 machine steps. Step 1 is the boundary of the finished block, and step 2 is the placement for the first piece of fabric. So I am now going to put a little bit of glue stick in that small square. Your first, if you're new with us, you might not know this, so I'll go over it. With patchwork in the hoop and build a quilt, your first piece of fabric is always laid with the pretty side or the right side facing up. And I like to place mine in here where I can kind of feel this with my fingers. And yeah, like I know right there from there where my line is to there is roughly a 1/4 inch. This is roughly a 1/4 inch. My seams are built in, so it doesn't really matter, but this keeps me from having to do much trimming in the end. Now we're going to do step 3, and that is going to be to stitch this piece of fabric into place. This whole piece just takes a couple of minutes to stitch out, no problems. You're going to be making 2 dark light combos and 2 medium light combos. You've seen all of that information in your written instruction. Now, normally, if I had placed this piece of fabric just straight on, I would want to come in here and do a little trimming on these 2 sides in the interior so that I had this rough 1/4 inch, okay? However, the fabric outside the boundary here and here, I leave it alone. That will get trimmed away when I trim the overall piece out of the stabilizer. Alrighty, now we're ready for our next piece of fabric. And that is going to be for this piece right down here. And I know that that piece is in here like so, I believe. And so I am going to flip this up. So I've laid it in the direction facing up that it should go. Now I'm going to flip it over and lay it right on top of the other piece, right sides together. And I have a little over here so that when I turn it, I might need to do a little trimming, but I want to make sure and give myself plenty of fabric right there. Now I'm going to stitch that down. And I'm going to place a little bit of glue stick right there where that piece should go. And now I'm going to flip. That flips it right into place. You can see where my needle is. It's going to come right down there and right up there. So I've got it in the perfect spot. There's piece 2. Now we're ready to do piece 3, which is going to be the other kind of third modification piece. Now I know that this needs to end up being just like that when it's done. So I'm going to take that now and flip it directly over, lay it right on the edge there, like I did with this piece down here. And we're going to stitch that down. And while that's getting started, I'll go ahead and put my little dot of glue there. That way I don't have to do that at the end. Alrighty, that's done. Now we're going to flip this piece and stick it down. There we go. And we're going to now stitch this into place. And we will have half of our segment piece completed. So these don't take very long at all. And regardless of which of the 3 sizes that you make, you're going to be making 2 dark light and 2 medium light for each block. So you'll be making 4 of these in total. Now I need to do the second half. Now what I want to do first though as you can see here, because I left a little fabric there, I have basically what we would think of maybe as little dog ears right here. That's okay. I'm now going to come in here with my snips. And let's see, let me adjust my camera a little bit better. There we go. I'm going to come in here with my snips, and I'm going to snip those two little pieces right off. There we go. Now I've gotten rid of that bulk from the finished piece. There we go. Now I'm going to place this right back into my machine. Reset my camera. There we go. Now I'm going to take, I have one big triangle in my dark, and I'm going to lay it right side down, right over the top of what I stitched before. Just pull it out. I'm going to let a little bit show right here. There we go. We'll stitch that down, and then we'll flip it. Now we're going to flip this. Give it a little press right there, and we're going to stitch it down. And then after this, we have one more stitch, and that is the stitch all the way around. And that ends up giving us our guideline for sewing these together with our sewing machine. And here is where you might want to use some fabric tape. And I'll show you why here. These little pieces out of the way. Alrighty. So because we have places where fabric comes together, there's two reasons we want to do a final stitch out all the way around. One, it connects all these little fabric connection points, okay? And in the end, it gives us a seam line all the way around that will guide us when we're stitching out our fabric, or when we're stitching out our segments together on the sewing machine. As long as you follow that down, you'll be good. And I have a little video attached right after this one that will show you that. And then there will be the, well, actually the next part of this video is the layout. And then there will be the little bit of how to seam them together. And then we'll finish. So when I'm doing this, there is always a chance. Now, if my foot is going this way, which it will, it's not going to catch on this because it's going with that fold of the fabric. However, when I come down to here, I'm coming towards, well, let's see. So you can see, there we go. I'm coming towards this fold. So there is a chance that my foot, my embroidery foot, could catch on this and do that and then end up sewing that all down. You'd have to take it apart. So it's easy to use a little piece of fabric tape to keep that from happening whenever it's going against that fold. Always put your tape, here's your pro tip, on the outside of the seam line. Don't put it on the actual stitching. I've seen a lot of different embroidery projects and people put it right on the stitching. And if you've got a big embroidery project and this you've got some fancy stitches, that might be okay. But we're using just a plain straight stitch, and that's the one stitch that is really easy to pop out if you're pulling tape off of it, even a lightweight fabric tape. So put it outside the stitch, and then that will peel right off and it won't damage your stitching. And then we're going to do, we've got one little more right down here in the corner. I don't need to worry about that one because I'm going with the fold. But here I'm going against the fold, and here I'm going against the fold. So I'm going to put that right there. And now I'm set to do my very last piece of the stitch out. Now I have demonstrated this for you in the 5x5 segment size. This is the one that you will make for the 10x10 block if that's the choice you wish to make your first one for practice on. This block will be in the Quilt Lab quilt at the end of the year, and so we will be making the 5x5s, but if you want to practice making it in the smaller 6x6 or 8x8 version, that's great too. All right, so my stitch out is done. All I do now is peel my tape away. And because I don't have to worry about cutting it and stuff around that stitching, I can reuse this tape because it's just going to come right off the fabric. And I can reuse that several more times. In fact, you'll see one right here. It's got a couple little pieces on that I can pull off. I can still reuse that. And I just stick them on my machine and away I go. So there is the first stitch out. Now all I will do is take my ruler and lay the 1/4 inch mark on my seam line all the way around and trim that 1/4 inch. And that block is ready to be sewn together with another block to create the finished overall block. And now the next part of the video is going to be the layout. And then you'll see the little 3-minute clip on how to stitch these together on your machine before we finish up.
Okay, everybody, we're back here at the cutting table because now in this section we're going to talk about the layout for our inside out block. And this block is deceptively simple to lay out. There's only 4 segments. You sew 2 together, you sew 2 more together, and then you sew the 2 sections together. However, it is so simple that it's one of those that we might tend to mess up. This block, each one of these segment blocks looks like this. The small square, the half, and the 2 wings, because this is a 3-piece modified half square triangle. So one might think that this just seems like it would go together like that, right? But that would be wrong. That's not how the inside out block. That could make a cute block if you wanted to do it that way. I don't see why not. A square in a diamond in a square. That's cute. You could do that way with these pieces if you wanted to. But with the inside out block, you need to turn your dark light segments around and put the solid part of the half square triangle pointing toward the center. And in the light mediums, the little squares point towards the center. You're almost getting a butterfly effect or a bow tie effect here in the center of this block. So I recommend that when you go to sew your segments together, have the color photo from the instruction packet ready to go to look at that, because I know myself, I would, sure as anything, I would end up sewing them like that and have to take them apart and redo them. That way, as you get ready to go, you know you're doing it in the proper direction. So all you're going to do is sew these 2 together and these 2 together, and then fold that on top of this one, and then 1 long line, and you're done. Super duper simple. All right, everybody. Now the next little part after this is going to be the small 3-minute video on how to sew these together at your machine. I mentioned that in the demonstration. And then, of course, we'll have our final farewell.
Hi everybody, so this is Diana and I'm here at my sewing machine to show you how to sew your pieces together without getting that stitch line to show. Now you can see here I just have 2 little half square triangles. I've used the pin method up here at the point to make sure they're lined up, and I just have 1 clip here. Now what I do first is when I put this in my machine, I get my needle right to where the line would be, right on that stitch line, okay? Then I come over to my machine's tools and I take my width down by 1, and that's all. Now I'm going to put it back up, and I'm going to take you back over to here and let you see that. Okay, so watch the needle, how that moves. I'm going to move it now. See how it just moved 1 place to the inside, or I guess as you're looking at it, it would be to the left. That would be to the inside. Now I'm going to place my needle down, and I can go ahead and remove my clip because this is a small piece, and I can sew right down And I have my stitch length at 1.8, and you can see now that I've already done a few stitches, it is still right one click in. It's not directly on top of it, and so I should, when I'm done, be able to finish and not have that black line sewn. And you just follow it all the way down. Now I'm going to cut my thread and bring it out, and I will open this up and bring it right back over so you can see it. So there it is, opened up. Now you might see a little of the black in this case because I used that marker, but when I'm just going to open up my seam in the back and hold it open for you. But you can see when I hold it open, that's just a little piece of thread that I can pull out of there. That's gone. And now you don't see it at all. You don't see any of the black thread, which I used for demonstration purposes, but you don't see any of my original embroidery thread from making the patchwork itself. And that is just by moving that needle one space and one space only. And again, I always stitch these with a 1.8 or a 2.0 stitch length so that it really holds these together when you go and open them up. And when I open it up here, you can see the line all the way down on both sides, and that's what you should be able to do. So I hope that you found that helpful. That was a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. And now we'll move on with the rest of the Q&A for today.
Okay, everybody, we've now made a full inside out block. Wasn't it simple to make? And since you've made 4 of these segment pieces, should be pretty easy for you to make them now if you find them in any other block design. And as I said in the introductory part of the video, this block will be used in our Quilt Lab 2024 quilt. That is the quilt where we use several of the Quilt Lab blocks that we have made throughout the year, and this will be one of them. This is going to be a filler in that quilt to kind of guide us from block to block. And so when we do it in that particular quilt, we're going to be looking at some of these colors as being our background colors, and you'll get more information on that and how to use this at that time. So if you have any questions, as always, you can contact me at support@sewincommon.com, and I'll be happy to get back with you. Again, our website is www.mybuildaquilt.com. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll get all of our videos, you'll see all of our updates, and you'll get to interact with over 76,000 quilting friends throughout the world. It's a great community that's being built there, and I can't wait to have you as part of the Build a Quilt family. And then please, when you watch those videos, please like and share them. That allows others to find our videos as well. Thank you all so much, and as always, go quilt life beautiful.